Riter Radio is a BKR Media production. All right. Hey, what's up? It is me, Brad. It's Riter Radio, the podcast version. There's a radio version of Riter Radio again. And eventually these two things will seamlessly interact, the radio show and the podcast. All right. Podcast has fallen by the wayside a little bit over the past month and a half or so since the radio show started. But you can hear the radio show live Monday through Friday, 10 to noon on WLVL, which is AM 1340 out of Lockport. The signal isn't the strongest, so if you're not in Niagara County, you might have a little trouble getting it if you're in like southern Erie or something like that. But the stream works great everywhere, except for when it doesn't. It broke down a little bit. You'll hear about that in just a second. But WLVL.com, there's also an app, a WLVL app that works great. It's very simple and easy, and you click it. But you can just go to the website, WLVL.com, and hit listen live, and there I am from 10 to noon, Monday through Friday, on Hometown 1340 WLVL and WLVL.com. But the podcast needs to be a thing, too. So I want stuff from the radio show to end up on the podcast. I want stuff that I do just for the podcast to maybe be good enough to wind up on the radio show. I'm working on all of that, working out the kinks of it. But what we're doing today, and this is being recorded the afternoon of March 14th, Friday, March 14th, heading into St. Patrick's Day weekend, want to give you a couple of chunks of what has happened on the radio show the last couple of days. Yesterday, I did a full hour with Jeremy Hoyle, the lead singer of the Strictly Hip. They're performing their 30th anniversary concert a week from today, so that is the 21st of March at Kleinhans Music Hall. Tickets are available online. You can get those. Say hi to me if you're there. I'll be there with my whole family. Can't wait. Looking forward to that. And then there's another event with Strictly Hip in Lockport at the Keenan Center, the Taylor Theater at the Keenan Center, which is just an awesome venue. I was there a couple weeks ago for a different show and immediately thought I need to get back here ASAP. And hey, look who's on the list of people coming to town, and it is our friends Jeremy Hoyle and Strictly Hip. So I'll be there for that too. That's April 11th. Had a full 1 hour conversation with him. When I just mentioned sometimes the stream breaks down, I guess. It happened yesterday. It's the first time I'm aware of it. I've done, I think, 35 shows now on WLVL, and it's the first time where I went to grab the audio from the recording, from the stream, and it wasn't there for a chunk of it. So you will hear something that sounds a little bit jumbled because the conversation with Jeremy starts, and then it just cuts off, and then it starts again. I think we're off the air for a few minutes. I don't know if it was 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that, but most of that hour remains intact. So you're going to get a chance to hear from Jer. We talk not just about his band, about the music of the Tragically Hip, about being in a band in general, about putting together set lists and all that kind of stuff. It's super cool. I had fun with it. Then this morning, I spoke with Ray Walter, who on the radio show serves as my chief legal correspondent or senior legal correspondent. He's a judge. He's also my friend, and I brought him on to make some sense of the tariffs and the chaos that is surrounding the current administration. We did that. And then Paul Peck is my senior bowling correspondent on the radio show, although we rarely talk bowling. He was at the UB Pro Day when Shaun Dolac, linebacker and MAC Defensive Player of the Year, and soon to be in an NFL camp, was on display for scouts, NFL scouts, and he performed exceptionally well. We talked a little bit about that, what it could mean for Paul and the future of Shaun Dolac's career. So there's that. And then I'll be back right at the end to wrap it up. Although, to be honest, the way podcasts work, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to say, here comes Jeremy Hoyle. I'm going to stop talking, and then I'm just going to start again, and it'll be me saying, all right, well, there you go. Thanks for listening. So that's what's going to happen. Let you in on a little bit of the magic here. This is several pieces of audio strung together, edited together by me, because I like editing audio. It's fun. All right, that's it for right now. So you're going to hear Ray Walter. You're going to hear Jer Hoyle from Strictly Hip. You're going to hear the New York State Supreme Court Justice, Ray Walter, as my legal expert to talk about tariffs. And then you're going to hear from Paul Peck, who is the play-by-play man for UB football, but is also my friend and is also our chief bowling correspondent. Not chief. I keep senior. I think I do senior bowling correspondent. Yeah, senior bowling correspondent, Paul Peck. So all those things are coming your way here as a part of the podcast. Please like and subscribe and do all the stuff that people with podcasts ask you to do. We're now on YouTube as well. In addition to, it starts on, I record it, I upload it to Spotify. Spotify then uploads it to YouTube. You get it wherever you get your podcasts, but that's the way I roll. So Spotify first, YouTube second, but you can find it anywhere. YouTube is where I would like people to go, though. That seems to be the place to host and grow a podcast. It's not a video thing. You'll just see a logo sitting there, and you'll get this same audio. But yeah, we're at YouTube, and that is youtube.com/at Brad Riter. Or no, at Riter Radio. Sorry. RITERRADIO. But you already found it. You're listening. So what am I telling you for? All right, here comes Jer Hoyle. Testing 1, 2, 3. Jer Hoyle, are you there?
Brad, I'm right next to you.
Yes, you are. Well, you're not right next. We've got glass between us.
I'm in a fish tank.
Well, so am I. But when I'm just here by myself, it's fine. This is not bad. The only problem with this setup, which is very much like we're on a prison call, like it seems like you'd be visiting me because you came from the outside. I was already here.
Okay.
So you're visiting me. But we've got glass between us because you're sitting in the news booth because I do a show from a control room that has one microphone. And I don't think I've ever had a full radio conversation with somebody in a different room than me. The thing I missed out on is I wanted to say something to you 30 seconds before I went on the air, and I would have had to go around and walk through a series of doors to get to you. So that's the only thing that hurts. But this is fine. We're 7 feet from each other.
I'm in a glass case of emotion.
Yeah, as am I.
You are. I can see it.
We're in dueling glass cases, and the emotion is heavy. All right, welcome to the show. Jeremy Hoyle is the founder, lead singer, king, if you will, of the Strictly Hip.
I'm not the founder, Brad.
You're not the founder?
I'm not the founder.
Yes, you are.
I am not.
How are you not? Tell me that story. Tell me how you're not the founder.
Well,
I don't want to make you just the lead singer because you're more than that.
No, that's what I am. I'm the singer.
Come on.
The band existed prior to me joining the band.
What?
Yes. And 5 guys had started this band, and they were doing shows in St. Catharines, and they needed a singer. The singer that was singing was moving on in his career.
Okay.
So, that's how I became the singer.
Come on.
Yeah.
Who was the other guy?
His name was Ben McVicker.
What's he doing?
He's a radio guy.
Radio guy?
Yeah.
Where?
Like you. In
Toronto?
Canada, in a bunch of different markets, I think.
Okay.
But he was on hits for a while. Yeah, he's good at it, too.
Really?
Yeah. Ben McVie.
Are you in touch with him? Do you know him? Or
a little bit.
Well, you replaced. It's not like are the other guys in? Well, who's still around? Who founded? Who was the original band?
The original band was Ron Harvey, Rick Ryback, Greg Johnson, Craig Cozen-Young, and Ben McVicker.
All right, so you're the only one. They transferred all of their powers to you. I'm still going to make you the founder. Did they play in Buffalo? Did they play in?
No.
Okay, so it was a Canadian only.
Yeah, like just in St. Catharines. It was like a new project.
Okay,
and then just kind of getting it together, and then I joined, and we just continued from there.
All right. I'm still going to think of you as the founder because you're but I know you're not. But
yeah,
I don't know how to. You brought it to us. I mean, I would not have gone to St. Catharines to see a hip cover band. Do you know the first time I saw your band play?
No.
You were playing, I'm going to guess it's 1998.
Yep.
And you were playing at a place called the Thruway Inn on Seneca Street, it's not there anymore. It's closed. But it was essentially under the 190.
Yeah.
Like you're just playing in a bar. And I lived in South Buffalo at the time. And I saw, first of all, I was fascinated by the fact that there was a band that would do just that. It didn't seem, at the time, like a large enough scope to be a tragically hip tribute.
Yep.
Did not seem like a large enough scope to just have that be your thing. I make a distinction between tribute bands and cover bands, and here's where I draw the line. The cover bands play Mustang Sally every night. Mm-hmm. Tribute bands have a larger purpose.
Yeah, like a focus.
Yeah, there's a focus. There's a plan. There's a goal. There's an honor to
I understand
what you do compared to. And hey, I like Mustang Sally just as much as the next guy. I like
Pickett, man.
Yeah, I mean that vibe is. I'm okay with beer tents. I'm okay with lawn fates. I get it.
Yeah.
But there's a difference because of I think the love that you put into what you do
Right.
that has carried you through from 1995 until now, which is nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't have possibly. You said yes to this gig, replacing Ben McVicker. You did not picture playing Kleinhans 30 years later, right?
No, I didn't really. The goal always, since I was a teenager, was to be a working musician.
Yeah.
That's it. Just be a working musician. No dreams of that next level of fame and fortune. Really, never really thought about it. Still don't. Wanted to be a working musician, and I just wanted like everybody, just wanted my parents to be proud of me. You know what I mean? Like those are the things that drive you. And at that time, like, I was always into like following a master, you know, in the literary sense of maybe. At that time, I was super into Jack Kerouac. Maybe that's what I'm going to become a student of, and sort of maybe not dedicate my life to it, but sort of dedicate myself to it. And I had a number of those. It could have been Bob Dylan. It could have been Kerouac. All those
could have been
things.
the wine.
Yeah, it could have been the Willie Nelson. Could have been the wine. But it like the idea of like dedicating yourself to an artist, like. And being like having a master in terms of cultural, I was sort of into that, and it happened like Gord Downie and the Tragically Hip. That just spoke to me, just like right in my heart, right in my brain.
Did you get him the way that you do now right away, or did you luck into the fact that a guy who was putting out really cool, fun rock and roll music turned out to be a genius and a poet and a guy you could turn into a master? Because we both feel the same way about Gord Downie, but I didn't feel that way about him in 1995 or 1998 yet. Yeah. It took me a while to appreciate the beauty of him as a human being.
Showcase for everybody's talents. Like Steve, our drummer, he plays a gazillion instruments. So that's the night where you get to see Steve play piano and glockenspiel and xylophone, and Frank plays a million instruments. It's like a fun night of, and in that room, this is like a hidden gem in not only Niagara County, in Western New York.
It's one of the coolest places I've ever been for anything, ever. I mean, I can't believe that exists this close to me, and it took me until a couple weeks ago to go there, but then finding out you're playing there is cool. They just had Michael Ian Black, the comedian, there. Yeah. Like, what a cool place. So maybe I'm preaching to the choir. Everybody in Lockport knows about Taylor Theater at Keenan Center, but I was blown away by it, and I can't wait to see you guys there. We do have to take a time out. It's Jeremy Hoyle, leader of the Strictly Hip, who will be performing next Friday. I've been saying Saturday for like a while, because I just don't look at calendars. That's dumb of me. Yeah, that's right. Today's the 13th, so +7, +1, 21. Friday, next Friday, at Kleinhans. Tickets available online. The VIP is sold out, but the regular seats still can be purchased, correct?
Yeah, we got lots of seats.
And then the Keenan Center show is on April 11th. I got that right? Yes? I think so. All right. Hey, what do you know? You just go, you wake up, all right, where am I going today?
I'm the founder.
You're the founder. No, you're not. You're not the founder, you fraud. Jeremy Hoyle. Jeremy Hoyle from Strictly Hip is here in the next room over from me. It's technically a news booth today. It's an interview hole. And I noticed, we've got a 2-minute break there or whatever. And Jeremy's doing what people do. He's just hanging out, looking at his phone. And the drum hits for Poets, and he just perks up. It's like, oh, that's me. They're talking about me right now, aren't they? I felt that from you. Without even looking, I just felt that sense that it kicks in, the hip is there, and that means it's time to go back to Jer. All right, here's a question I have for you that, let's see, we've got about a 5-minute segment here. Question I've had for you for a long time, and it never comes out because anytime I interview you, I hate the word interview, anytime I have a conversation with you on the air, it's limited. It's like, 12 minutes and we're done. And then anytime we're out, having lunch or having a beer or whatever, it just hasn't come up. But I've had it. It's number one. I did make a list of things to talk about. I haven't looked at it yet. But number one on here is about set lists. What? Like, you're playing Kleinhans next Friday. Big show. One of the larger shows in the history of the Strictly Hip. Is the set list prepared? Do you know exactly what songs you're going to play, in what order? Do you have transitions built in? Do you have, interstitial things you're planning to say or show on a screen or whatever? And what is that process like? How do you, as an artist, as a creator, build something like that, and how does it differ from venue to venue? I'm very interested in that process. Like, I make baseball lineups, I don't make set lists, but I'm intrigued. I've written set lists for bands that I'm not in, because I'm nuts. But what's it like when you get to choose?
It's just like that. Just as you said, it's like a baseball lineup to me.
Okay.
Like, you got a cleanup hitter. Totally think of it like that. But it's also like on that show, the Kleinhans show, on the March 21st at Kleinhans. That's totally. We have a lot of guests on the show.
Oh.
There's a video element. There's all those things have to be, especially at that level, they have to be, chosen and discussed.
Well, especially once there's a video element, now you've got to start.
Right.
You're working to a track of some sort, so you've got to have a plan.
Yeah. Yes, and from like throughout the year, the set list, we just try to make them cool. Like, there's people that come to see the band multiple times in a row. They're definitely not going to see the same show ever. Like, we try to keep it very fresh and very cool, and we try to do things like, if we're playing, location specific appropriateness, or what's in the zeitgeist at the time, the appropriateness of that, right? Is today the day to play fireworks during a hockey tournament or things like that? But it's always just try to keep it fresh and always cool, and always it's always for the people that are.
Do you have a list or a notebook or something in your phone or whatever that is straight up, these are the songs that we all know and can pull out at any time, and then also say, hey, I've been thinking about this late period track that we've never tried. How does that process work? How do you introduce a new song into your repertoire? And this is whatever. This is just me being crazy here. I was looking at Tragically Hip set lists from I don't even know what year, and you can click on a thing and see the stats for the tour. And they had played. It was the World Container Tour or the We Are the Same Tour, one of those. And they had played 70 shows in that year. And there were only 2 songs that were played 70 times. And they were both off of the new album. Mm-hmm. And 70 shows, 69 times they played New Orleans is Sinking.
Yes.
There was a show where somebody went to see the Tragically Hip that year, and they didn't play New Orleans is Sinking, which I appreciate as a fan. I like the missing stuff. No, we didn't play the biggest thing we have.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Have you ever not played New Orleans is Sinking?
Yeah, many times.
What? Really?
On purpose.
Well, it would have to be.
Yeah,
you wouldn't forget about it.
Like, this isn't the night for that, once, I think we didn't play it around, I think we didn't play it around Katrina.
Yeah. Okay.
Like those kind of...
Right. While New Orleans was sinking, it was in poor taste.
Yeah. Or sometimes it's just being like too cool for school, like we're not playing it tonight.
I appreciate that. I appreciate Nirvana not playing Teen Spirit. Yeah. I appreciate that.
But ultimately, those aren't our songs. And people are coming to hear those songs. They want to hear their favorites. They want to hear the stuff they love. And also, I found that Tragically Hip fans are adventurers when it comes to music. They want to hear, they want to discover new songs maybe they even forgot about, or I didn't know about that one,
Sure.
So it's about taking them on a ride, showing them a cool place to hear the music, and it's like a little travel club.
I was looking at the set lists, and I found a show that I attended. Remember, they played 4 consecutive nights at Art Park in, I don't even know what it would have been, 06, 07, something in there. And one of the shows, the final, the Friday show, they played Yawning or Snarling directly into Inevitability of Death, which are two of my like kind of secret hidden ones. I was like, oh my God, I saw that. That's what I did for 15 minutes on some Friday night in the mid 2000s. Oh my God, so cool. All right, we got to take a break already. It is Jeremy Hoyle, leader of the Strictly Hip, big 30th anniversary show coming up at Kleinhans next Friday, and also a show coming up at the Keenan Center on April 11th. I recommend you attend both because you're going to get two entirely different flavors of the same incredible music performed by these passionate men who are tastefully recreating, interpreting the music of one of my favorite bands of all time, maybe my favorite band of all time. It changes. I have 30 top 10 movies of all time. I have probably a dozen top 3 bands of all time, and the Hip are very much in that conversation. Strictly Hip faithfully recreating that experience for you twice in the coming month and a half or so, real close to where you live. Highly recommend it. I have a lot of friends on the show. I think I'm better when my friends are around. This one is a particularly interesting friend because he is the leader / frontman / singer / king of the Strictly Hip, performing their 30th anniversary show at Kleinhans next Friday, performing at the Keenan Center here in Lockport on April 11th, and kind enough to join me in studio for a full hour. I just went in during the break because Jared has to sit in a different room than I am in because I only have one microphone here, but he's right next to me. He's like, I could almost reach him if not for these panes of glass in between us. And I said, this is what I want my show to sound like at all times. This is great. I could do this forever. Just hang out and talk with my friend about music because we've got a lot in common in our taste. He just has talent and I don't. So, we got that going for us. We also have something else in common. We both have recorded segments as guests on a podcast originating in Canada that is a Tragically Hip Top 40 countdown. So this guy, JD, put out a list, or put out a survey and asked people to list their top 20 hip songs. And once that happened, he got a bunch of things in. He had like 160-ish songs, and he did little tiny versions of the countdown, like 5 at a time, a week at a time. And then once it got to the top 40, it started in January. Each episode is a conversation with a big hip fan, and then eventually the reveal of what the song is. Song number 40 is this, and then they play it, and then they talk about the song. But it's a lot about like your origin story and how you got into the hip and what you first remember and what was your first show and that kind of thing. Both of us have recorded episodes of that. We can't tell you when they will be released. They come out every Monday. But JD won't tell us what number our songs came in, and I don't even think we should talk about which songs we discussed, because I had a big one, and you had a big one. We can talk about it privately. We're not putting this on the radio. But at the end of my episode, he asked me, what song do you think will wind up as number 1? And I gave him an answer on the air, and then I changed my mind. I slept on it. I woke up, and I had to email him right away to change my answer. Did he ask you that question, and do you have a guess what the number 1 song as selected by hip fans would be from the entire Tragically Hip catalog? Did he ask you
I don't
that?
recall. I don't recall if he asked me.
All right. Well, he asked me, and I don't like my answer anymore.
Is it Ahead by a Century, maybe?
Okay. That might be in there.
What are you thinking?
Well, live on the air, or not, on tape.
Yeah.
I landed, because I didn't know I was going to be asked the question, and I landed on Nautical Disaster.
That was my second choice.
Okay. Then I slept on it, and then I woke up, and then the answer became apparent to me.
Oh, boy.
I think it's Grace 2.
Ooh.
I think that's number 1.
Yeah.
But, we'll see. We'll see. I don't think there's a bad choice.
Grace 2's a sleeper. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. Suddenly that felt like the right answer to me. Do you have sleeper hip songs that you don't play with Strictly Hip because they're too secret for everybody? Like what's your, because you're a deep dive kind of guy. Obviously, you know the catalog in and out, but not everything necessarily translates to making the crowd happy.
Yeah.
You like to at times introduce something new, as you already pointed out, but do you have any hidden gems, maybe like late period stuff that you care about a lot, but probably won't come out of your mouth on a stage?
Well, we try to play the stuff we love, right? And so the only limitation is instrumentation. So, for example, excuse me, I love World Container. However, it's a piano-based song. Although we can pull off a piano song, we would need another musician to do it because we're a band that doesn't use any type of audio augmentation. We don't use tracks or anything.
Right.
What you're hearing is
live
humans making music.
Yeah, live right in your face.
So,
yep.
Yeah, World Container, love it. Would love to do it. But we didn't let us stop us with Depression Suite, which is a fully orchestrated song. We do that with orchestra, of course, and then also as a 5-piece band, like the Hip would do it live. But yeah, the dream song thing, like whatever, we'll do it, man. Like I love it. I want to do World Container. I love it. I love how it's like Freddie Mercury-ish, and
it's so good. It's so that is my current favorite, and like I have a rotating cast of favorite movies and favorite artists. I have a rotating cast of favorite Hip songs, and that I have gone back to that one. I've listened to that song 30 times this year, let's say, and that's a lot.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just every time I think, like, I want to play it right now. I'm not going to right this second. I might before the show ends, but that song in particular, and that's what is, to me, amazing about the music of the Hip, is that I think I was initially drawn to, and this is not to denigrate it in any way, but like the rock and roll is what brought me in.
Yeah.
So I'll use a song like Twist My Arm, for example, or I'll Believe in You. It's a rock song, and that's where you got me.
Yep.
And now I'm paying attention, and now 38 Years Old happens. And so I think I was drawn to that, but now I'm looking for the tiny little gems that are maybe quieter. And that's it's me being older, I'm sure. That's a part of it. But in order to appreciate everything that band did and that Gord Downie was, rock and roll got me there. It got me to the poetry. And I think that's what I get from you as well and your bandmates.
Yeah.
That it ain't Mustang Sally, man. Like, what you're doing is not cover band stuff. It is, man, I love this song, and I hope you love it too. I'm going to try to do it as well as I possibly can so that you love it as much as I do. And that's what I get out of you guys every single time I see you perform.
I think that would be an accurate sort of description.
Yeah, I hope you appreciate that. Like, that's what you're putting out, and that's what I'm getting. And I think other people are as well, which is what allows you to do this for 30 years. How have things changed for you? No longer, I don't want to say imitating, but whatever the word is, paying tribute to a band that was living, breathing, performing, and then they have the final tour, and then Gord passes away, and now they're not doing it, but you are.
Yeah.
How has that changed? Has that had any impact on your approach or your feeling toward what you're doing?
100%. This has always been all the time. It's always been a very serious proposition for my bandmates and I. And with Gord's passing, it made it all more serious. It made it more serious for the fans, and so we redoubled our efforts. We, like I said, we take it very, very seriously, and because we love it, and because the people love it, and ultimately it's for the people. It's we just happen to be, some tools in the toolbox that are able to deliver it to the people. And fortunate to be able to do so. I love it. I love my job, man. I love it.
So I go through phases with bands, and like I said, it rotates. Like I think every day, if I ask you what's your favorite band of all time, you would probably say the Tragically Hip.
Probably.
I would often say that, but there are days when I just like Fish, and there are days when I just like Public Enemy, and there are days when I just like the Black Crowes.
Yeah.
There are days when I'm into the Beatles, and then there's another day where I'm into the Stones. And do you go through phases, or are you not allowed to because you're so locked into what you're doing? Like what are you into music wise other than the hip? Because I will say the last time I saw you, you opened for yourself as Canadian Tuxedo.
Yeah.
And just hearing did you play Cuts Like a Knife? I think you played some Bryan Adams thing, and I was just like, "Oh man, you're so Canadian, Jerry." It was just, it was so cool to think about the fact that that's right. You're not just that. You're a person like me that likes other stuff. So, do you go through phases, and are you allowed to mentally go through phases when you have to focus so much on your job, which is performing the music of the Tragically Hip?
Yeah, I have a weird relationship with the Tragically Hip's music because it is fandom as well as my career. But I go through these things. Like I was just telling my wife yesterday, I've been listening to nothing but podcasts and music of Lou Gramm and Foreigner.
Okay.
Right? That's what I've been into.
I didn't expect that.
Right.
Okay.
But last week, I did a deep dive on this 18-year-old banjo player from Brooklyn named Nora Brown, who absolutely blew my mind. And just listened to everything, found out everything I could. It's like a similar obsessive approach to fandom, right? That I know you have that as well.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people have that. But yeah, the through line through all of it is this band from Kingston called the Tragically Hip.
What is the so we talked about set lists and how you form them. What is the overall game plan? Like, what can people expect from the Kleinhans show? Is there an opening act? Is it just you? Is it are there two sets? Like, what's the structure of the show? With whatever you're willing to reveal. I'm not trying to spoil anything here.
One big set with all of these people that have been musically connected to us over the years here in Buffalo. Jamie Holka, one of the best guitar players in the world. He's going to be performing on the show. Frank's brother, Joe, former member of More Than Me that performed with Paul McCartney. My daughter, Erin, who's an artist on the rise.
Who's amazing.
Right.
She's fantastic.
And Eric Eimiller, a friend of ours. And Rick Rummel from the Working Man's Dead. He's played so many shows with us. And Vito Wojcik, that's Bruce's son, who is, at the end of the month, going in the Army.
Oh.
So he's a drummer, a very accomplished drummer. And this will be his, he's going on to a whole new life.
Does he sit in, or do you have a second drum kit?
He'll be sitting in.
Okay.
Steve can play everything. So,
that's right. You got plans for him, too.
So, and then Steve's other band called Ransom, which is sort of a Latin vibe, they're going to be performing with us. So we have all these relationships that have helped us out through the years. Like, we need a keyboard player for this song. We'll get Rick. All those people are going to be performing with us.
It's probably pretty easy to talk people into a show at Kleinhans, huh?
Depends.
Really?
Oh, no, I'm kidding. Of course you want to play that.
I mean, I walked across the stage in the Mary Seton room for my high school graduation in 1992. But that's the best I've done as far as being on stage at Kleinhans. You get invited to do that, you got to do it.
Yes, that is,
it's a selling point.
Fortunately, to be able to do a once in a lifetime thing a few times.
Yeah, it's Radio City Music Hall, but it's Buffalo. That's essentially what you're doing.
Yes,
it's fantastic. All right, what do I have stuff written down to talk to you about? Did that one? Oh, do I have permission to call you my house band on Riter Radio, despite the fact that you've never actually performed here, and just like with a vision toward the future of bringing the band in? We've got a whole studio over there that I'll show you.
That's happening.
That would be a perfect setup.
I'm just say yes to everything.
All right.
Yes.
You're my house
Yes.
band. All right. So Jared Hoyle, Strictly Hip, house band of Riter Radio.
That is
I
cool.
feel like my show is better if I have a house band, even if you're never here, even if we,
I'm going to be
just
like Paul
occasionally.
Schaefer.
Yes, that's what
Yes,
that's
got
what I
it.
envision.
I'm Doc Severinsen.
Yes, exactly. You get wacky ties and wacky
Yes.
suits. You can do the whole thing. Oh, man. All right. I like that. What else do I have here? Set list. All right. So you're going to play Klein Hands. You have been on that stage how many times so far? 2? 3?
1 or 2, I think.
1 or 2?
Yeah.
BPO thing?
BPO thing, maybe once.
Only once?
Yeah.
All right. What venue to you in Western New York feels like home? Like, this one's easy. Like, not easy, but this is so comfortable. I belong here.
Well, there's 2 natural choices that are no longer with us. And that would be 88 West Chippewa, the Crocodile Bar, and the Trelf, 622 Main Street. But right now, we've been doing our residency at Babeville. We've been lucky enough to perform multiple times at the Town Ballroom, and there's so many other places. Like, everybody makes us feel at home. We're so fortunate that the audience keeps coming, and we just keep playing to them. And as much as the venue matters, it's about the people. It's about the people.
This is a solution to a problem. My problem is I don't understand what's going on in the world. My solution is to talk to people who do. We'll give it a shot. I said, hey, Ray Walter, you are our senior legal correspondent. Can you explain tariffs to me? And he said, I'll try. And that's good enough. That's because I can't try. Ray, what's up, man?
Hey, Brad, how are you?
I'm great. I'm confused. The world is flying at me a million miles an hour, and I'm just trying to make sense of it. And in order to make sense of it, I bring in my friends who are smarter than I am. What's up?
Brad, real quick, is Dr. Ken still there? Because I have a quick question.
He has left.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
That's good. That's good. Hi, Ray.
Hi, Brad.
How are things with you? Is the world as chaotic as the news cycle seems to make it, or do you agree with me that maybe we have to take a breath, wait a day or two before talking about the things that come out of the president's mouth to see if they stick?
I agree with you. I mean, I just think that news stations are selling a product. And they sell that product by making everything an emergency. And so everybody just needs to chill out and just see what happens, because in reality, most of this stuff does not affect us on an individual level.
I would say almost nothing in the news affects me at all. And the only way that it affects me is if I pay attention to it and end up in conversations about it, and then it frustrates me. But if I just go about my life on a daily basis, none of this stuff touches me. Like I really think I could function without knowing what's going on in the world and be pretty effective. Aside from the fact that I'm doing a radio show and talking into a microphone and it's coming out of speakers and that sort of thing. But as in my day-to-day life, this has very little to do with, my life of Little League Baseball and jazz band concerts and things of that nature that are really what I'm up to,
Well, yeah, and hopefully you don't drink a lot of French champagne or Italian wine, and that shouldn't be an issue for you.
Okay, so the tariff thing, it was, we're going to do it, we're going to pause it, we're going to cancel it, we're going to bring it back, it's 25% on this, it's aluminum, it's steel, it's Canada, it's Mexico, and then this thing kicks in where Europe kind of bites back a little bit at what Trump's thrown out there, and then suddenly it's, all right, 200% tariff on European alcohol products, and then I watched the news last night, and they're in some store, wine and liquor type of place. And they're like, our whole business is built on 90% of our products being from Europe. And big picture, like, if you could just magically fix everything and say, yeah, right, don't do that. Sell American stuff. Buy stuff from American makers. Like, that would work. And so, like, on an emotional level, I get where a lot of it makes sense. But isn't a lot of what's happening right now and being put out there in the news geared entirely toward that emotional level, which gets away from us focusing on what actually matters? I don't know if that's a question or what, Ray, but I'm just, this is how I'm processing it. That's the point I'm trying to make. I don't know what's going on.
I think there's a big difference between things like steel and aluminum and then products like alcohol. Because, as wonderful as our Niagara County wineries are, people do have a taste for certain things. So, if you like French champagne, then maybe the Niagara County sparkling wine isn't going to fill your need. So, whereas in steel or aluminum, I don't think whether you're buying steel or aluminum from Great Britain or from Canada or from the United States, it's all the same.
Right.
It's all the same thing. So I think there is a distinction between those things.
There's a flavor. The aluminum from Canada tastes a little bit different, but you're not supposed to taste it. So I guess that's that's the point. How much of this is real, Ray? And where is it going to go? Is it all just going to disappear like most things in the news cycle do, or is this a legitimate trade war that is escalating beyond repair?
Well, I think that's why you see so much turbulence in the economy right now, especially in the markets, because we really don't know. And the biggest thing that makes the markets unsteady is the unknowns. They want to be able to predict what's going to happen over the next 6 months to 5 years, right? So, Trump has put out a number of different reasons why he believes the tariffs are a good thing, whether it be to raise revenue or to protect U.S. industries or to use as leverage to get other things that he wants in negotiations. So, those things are mutually exclusive to some extent. So it's hard to tell right now what's going on. I think we just have to see how things shake out before we make a final determination.
Speaking with our senior legal correspondent, Ray Walter, here on Riter Radio. Ray, you have been in politics. You're no longer in politics because you can't be because you're a judge. Do you still crave it and love it, or do you find it distasteful at this point? Like, what's your overall opinion of the political landscape in America?
I follow it. I certainly am glad that I'm not in the middle of it anymore. But it is, I think we are far more partisan and we take sides to the extremes of either side, and people are really dug in. I think all of the studies and everything tell you that it is more partisan than ever before. A lot of that has to do with social media,
sure,
things like that. But that's certainly something that has changed over the last 20 years.
Is it good for us or bad for us to, as a society, care this much about the day-to-day intricacies of the political world?
I don't think it's good. I don't think it's good at all. It would be much better if you polled people and they couldn't tell you who the president was. I don't think that would be necessarily a bad thing. I think you hit the nail on the head yesterday when you were talking to a caller about the teams that you root for. At this point in our country's history, I think people are more invested in the teams that they root for, whether it be the Republicans or the Democrats, than it is necessarily the policies that could make America better or make us all be on the same track.
Do you find yourself less affiliated with a party or a team in the last several years as things have devolved into this, or are you a card carrying team member, I guess it would be the question, or do you feel that kind of weakening inside of yourself as you see what it's all leading to, including the social media part of it? That's a big deal because every dumb opinion gets the same voice as every intelligent, well thought out, nuanced opinion.
Well, listen, I've been on the bench for a little over 3 years now, and so I have to keep my opinions to myself, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Brad.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. But, this is you're my senior legal correspondent. I brought you on to talk about something that's slightly off the track, so I understand. Ray Walter is senior legal correspondent here. And what's your official title? I know justice is involved, but what's your official title?
New York State Supreme Court Justice.
Yeah, that's cool. But I just call you Ray.
Right.
Which I think is nice. Did you hear I had a priest on the show the other day, Father David Richards, who's the Grand Marshal of the St. Patty's Day Parade, and I talked to him about the fact that I understand many people will call you Father, but I'm going to go with Dave because I call Ray, and I call Shaun, not Dr. Shaun. I've got friends that have titles, but they're my friends first, so I'm more used to that. You're still comfortable with just being called Ray?
Absolutely.
Okay. Good deal. I was thinking just as you were coming on, would it be funnier to hit you with nothing but UB football questions, or funnier to hit Paul Peck, who's coming up at 11:35, with nothing but tariff questions? And I
know a little bit about UB football. I'm excited about Shaun Dolac. I think he's going to be. I think he's going to make a team, and he's going to have an impact.
He had a real day. I got some word that GMs are looking at him. They went from undrafted free agent up to 5th round pick already, just based on yesterday.
Oh, wow.
And they're going back and looking at tapes, and there's a lot happening with Shaun Dolac.
Did you catch a 40 time on him?
Yeah, 4.54. Something like that.
Oh, not bad.
No, great.
Yeah, not bad at all.
No, he needed to beat. He probably needed to beat about a 4.65 to be draftable, and he beat it by a significant margin. So yeah, it was a fantastic day for Dolac, which led to NFL teams going back and saying, "All right, got to look at the tape now," and the tape is going to tell a very, very happy story about West Seneca East graduate and UB star and MAC Defensive Player of the Year and all that stuff, Shaun Dolac. So we're going to get into that a little bit later, but I know you've got some UB ties as well. You went to UB Law School. You're a fan. I see it at basketball games. I see it at football games. Figured I'd mention it to you as well. All right, back to tariffs, which
Serious
is the...
question.
Okay.
Serious question, though, Brad.
Yes.
What do you think you could run in the 40? Do you think you could get under 6?
Under 6? No. I don't... You know what I've been wondering lately? Like, my kids are far more athletic than I've ever been. Would any of my sons, whoever the fastest of the 3 is, could they beat, let's say, Deion Dawkins in a 40-yard dash or like 100? There's some point where an 8-year-old's energy, an athletic and fast 8-year-old, eventually is going to beat Deion Dawkins in a race. We love Deion Dawkins at my house. My wife's got the jersey and everything. But he's a big, sloppy dude. How about that? What's the distance? What's the distance where the 8-year-old is going to beat the Pro Bowl left tackle?
Probably maybe a 400.
400. Okay. You need
one lap around the track.
You need endurance. Endurance would be the thing.
Yeah.
Little kid can keep
a
going.
Little bit.
Yeah. I mean, this is not in any way to denigrate Deion Dawkins. He's a stud athlete. He just doesn't look like an athlete. He looks like a big fat guy. He looks like all of our friends, Ray. He looks like somebody we'd hang out with. And I don't know, that comes up. All right, I want to get back to tariffs because we brought you on for tariffs.
Sure.
Where does this land from a legal standpoint? Declaring a tariff, president has the power to just do that, and then does that stick, or is there a congressional thing that's got to happen before things kick in? Because it seems like he declares it, and then it happens that day, and then we're stuck with it. Whether it's good or bad, I'm not even pro or anti-tariff. I'm just trying to figure out the scope of what's happening and how real it all is.
Yeah, so when he makes these announcements, he does them under certain laws that were passed by Congress previously that gave him the power to impose these tariffs. So usually with these European ones, he's cited the Trade Expansion Act of 1962, which basically allows him to put tariffs on products being imported into the U.S. in such quantities and circumstances to threaten or impair national security. The interesting thing is on the Canadian and Mexican tariffs and Chinese tariffs too, he's cited the International Emergency Economic Powers Act that was passed in 1977. That's usually been used for sanctions in the past. This is the first time it's ever been used for tariffs. But basically, he declares that there's an emergency. He cited fentanyl and illegal immigration. as the emergency that is, killing U.S. citizens and, the illegal immigrants coming across the border from Mexico, has created a national emergency. So he's used the IEEPA as his basis for those tariffs.
Is he just doing the Canada thing for fun? Because right there you said, fentanyl in Mexico, and I think fentanyl in Mexico, I think that's a problem. But just tacking Canada, China, sure, but tacking Canada on, it just seems like you're picking on your little brother, right? Doesn't it feel that way? Or is that real? Is the Canada thing real?
I'm not sure. I mean, I we'll see what happens with Canada. I don't think it's as obviously not as big of an issue with fentanyl and illegal immigrants coming across the northern border. I do think it is there are some issues with it, but it's certainly not the same as what's coming across from China and through Mexico. So
there is a performative aspect to literally everything that Donald Trump does. Like you're talking about, he's citing this particular statute or whatever, this law, this congressional decision, however you want to put it. He obviously is not going through books. He's like, hey, I found one I can use here. Like, where is that all coming from? Who's hooking him up with the information that he's spewing, for lack of a better term, on a daily basis that I know isn't coming from him? Like, what is that?
Right. So, when you see a tweet come through or he makes an announcement at a press conference or something, that's not the basis for these tariffs. If you can see the actual written proclamations that he makes, if you go on to whitehouse.gov and you look at, you can see all of the specific things, legal steps that he has to take in order to comply with the law. And it's all laid out in a presidential proclamation. And it's technical, and it cites all sorts of different laws, different studies, reports that he's receiving from, the State Department and other, agencies that give him the basis to make these decisions. It's not just a tweet that he's sending out.
Sure, I understand that. Where's he getting the information? It's not coming from him. It's not coming from J.D. Vance. It's not coming from Elon Musk. There's something working beyond the guy who's on television all the time and on X all the time and on, whitehouse.org. There's something else there, right? Like, we can assume that someone else helped him find these things that he's citing, right? Like, do we know who these people are?
Absolutely. So it's coming from the departments, right? It's coming from the Department of Commerce. It's coming from the Department of State. He's got White House counsel. He's got the Office of Legal Counsel in the Attorney General's office. All of the agencies have their own legal counsel. And so that's where all of this information and studies and things that they're citing, that's where they're coming from. Right. Coming from all of the agencies within the federal government.
All right. That's helpful. What else? Yeah. What's going on in your life, Ray? How are things? I haven't talked to you in a while.
Well, these tariffs, I'll tell you, we can touch on alcohol. We've talked about a little bit about sports. So if you want to talk about my three favorite things, the law, sports wagering, and alcohol, we've nailed it. We've got it covered.
We're done. All right. Well, then we'll wrap it up.
We got the NCAA tournaments coming up.
Yes.
That's exciting. Historic year for the SEC in basketball. The Big East and the ACC are very historically weak this year. So it's wide open. See what happens.
You got a favorite in the tournament?
Well, I'm partial to NATO and Alabama just because, it's just, and I'm not a big Alabama fan in general, but because Nate's there and he used to coach UB, I'm going to be rooting for them for sure.
It's been a problem the last couple of years when we wind up in the same pool and we're the two clowns that have Alabama to win the thing, and then we're just going against each other. So I'm going to keep an eye, but I'm probably going that way too. So, I guess it'll happen. All right, Ray, thank you very much. Appreciate your time as always. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Brad. All right.
The great Ray Walter joining us live on the line, our senior legal correspondent.
Hello, it's Paul.
Hey, Paul, it's Brad, and we're on the air already. We're on the air right now. I just called you live on the air. I've never done that
Sorry
before.
about that.
Well, the thing is, I tried
Well, there
calling
you
you.
go.
I tried calling you, and it went to voicemail. And then I had to go on the air seconds later. So I talked for a couple minutes, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to try calling Paul. Wait a minute. Let me just do it on the air. So people heard the phone ring, and they hear you. They have not heard your introduction yet. So we got to do that. Hold on. We're going to introduce you. Hold on. Turn off the Jay-Z music. Here we go.
Let's check in with Riter Radio's senior bowling correspondent, Paul Peck.
All right. Let's talk about bowling. No, I'm just kidding. Let's not talk about bowling. Let's talk about our man, Shaun Dolac, West Seneca East graduate, UB stud, MAC Defensive Player of the Year, did everything you could possibly do to garner attention as a player, but still needed to prove it yesterday. And by all accounts, man, did he have a successful pro day. You were there. Tell me about it.
It was awesome. It was, as you said, exactly. And he had a lot on the line for this, right? I mean, I know there's been a lot of fans who can't grasp their head around the fact that, you know, he had this amazing season. He was a first-team All-American. He led the country in tackles, but he didn't get invited to any of the All-Star games. He didn't get invited to the Combine, and I know it's been hard for people to understand why. So, and we can get into the reasons why, but basically that meant this pro day was everything for him. He had to perform well because his ability to get drafted was going to be determined by what he did. And he answered the bell, and he blew the doors off the bell, and ran great, and showed explosive athletic ability, even to the point where, I know some people who, converse regularly with some high-level NFL people in the scouting world, and so there were some general managers that were reaching out to my buddy who's a scouting guy who were like, tell me more about this Dolac kid once they saw the results of the pro day. So it couldn't have gone better for Shaun. I'm so happy for him. You and I know what a great kid he is, what a great player he can be, but he's a little small, and he plays at a small school, and he plays a position that isn't necessarily as valued. So he had all that to overcome, and he did it, which was great.
The cool thing, I think, is waking up today and suddenly my Twitter feed, X feed, is just full of Dolac highlights. Like, I got to watch the pick six against Eastern Michigan again multiple times today because people are just discovering now what we've been watching for years, but certainly what we watched this past year, which is a player who just absolutely dominated just about every time he took the field and was impossible to take your eyes off of. And he still needed the numbers, the math, the 40 time to justify people going back and looking at the film. So there's a whole new crew now just because he qualified for the scouts' time by doing by putting up the numbers, and now they're going to go back and look at the film. And if you look at the film, there's no way you don't want this guy on your football team.
Yeah, and then what happens in the scouting world, Brad, is a lot of these decisions physically and ranking wise are made before the season starts, right? Based on, estimated numbers or, how athletic, I saw some stuff yesterday within the scouting community that people thought he was going to run a 4.9, which is not a draftable speed for a linebacker. And maybe that was based on something he did previously or based on something that, that was anticipated or estimated, so that puts him low on the list and is why he doesn't go to some of these all-star games and stuff. So for him to run a 4.55 and certainly not a 4.9, all of a sudden takes him back into a late day 3 conversation.
Did anybody else do anything yesterday of note? Because I've been to a few of these pro days, and it tends to be, there's a featured player. There's one guy that everybody's there to see. But sometimes somebody that can impress and sort of bubble up and get on the radar, and it might not make you draftable, but you get your name written down in on a sheet of people to look at later. What was the rest of the UB Pro Day like, or was it a Shaun Dolac show?
It was mostly a Shaun Dolac show, to be very honest with you. And I'll be honest with you, to my fault, I was really kind of focused on Shaun. And, because I don't really know that any of the other players were considered draftable guys. Marcus Fuqua maybe, and C.J. Agbana, I thought, did some nice things yesterday, but we know he's a very good athlete. So he was going to look good in a setting like that. So, I think those guys probably have a little bit of a longer shot to make it to a lineup, to a roster. You never know with like an offensive lineman like Kalen Shepard or somebody like that, because sometimes those guys can open some eyes in what they do. But I think there was so much focus on Dolac that it was that everybody was sort of locked in on him.
Is there any sort of interview type of thing that goes on there, or is it exclusively perform physically and then he disappears? I don't remember if that's part of it, because Dolac is one of those guys that if you talk to him, you're going to like him more too, and that's another way for him to show off his intelligence, his intensity, all that is another positive if you're looking at him as a potential professional football player.
I think every scout that was there, and I believe there were 17 NFL scouts that were there, they all had a chance to talk to him. Nothing formal,
Sure.
Not the formal interviews that people hear about from the combine, but everybody goes up and chats with him. And, and again, at one point I was conversing with John City, who's a former UB player,
Yes.
Clarence kid, who's now a scout for the Chicago Bears. And John was there and talking to us, and then Shaun came over. So it was, I kind of made a joke. I said, I think those are the only two UB linebackers to ever have 2 interceptions in a game, because that's John City's claim to fame back in, I think, 2008, right?
Yeah.
But, so there's an opportunity for John, who knows Shaun because he's connected to the program, to get a chance to know him a little better. And then Najee Johnson, who's an ex-UB football player who's now a scout for the Houston Texans, knows Shaun, knows him through his brother Taji, who was one of the workout players yesterday as well too. So that's what the scouts do well, is they talk to the trainers, they talk to the equipment people, they talk to Pete Lembo, they kind of get the inside scoop. That's what these pro days sometimes are the most valuable for those scouts, is to find out more than just what everybody sees when the guy runs a 40-yard dash.
Speaking with Paul Peck, who is obviously our senior bowling correspondent here at Riter Radio, the pro day interrupted the start of spring practice for the UB Bulls. What have you seen so far, in particular at the quarterback position? Agbana is on his way out, and they're going to have somebody new, and this Roberson kid seems like they might have hit on something here, right?
He just looks like he belongs. Taquan Roberson, who's a new quarterback for the Bulls, who spent some time at both Penn State, Kansas State, and Connecticut. He actually started a year at Connecticut. Just looks like a guy who's started and has been in part of big programs before. He's not real big, but he throws the ball well, and he looks like he moves really well. And again, for a MAC program to be able to find a kid like that who has experience, who's a pretty good athlete, I think he's the likely kid to win the starting job there. And and he just looks like he'll bring a level of professionalism sort of into the program at that position, and which is light years ahead of where the Bulls were a year ago, with a brand new coaching staff and a quarterback that you and I and no one else had ever really seen play quarterback before. So that's encouraging.
But then we walked out of the season wishing that C.J. Agbana could come back for another year to see further development. So that's a tribute to him. That's a tribute to the coaching staff and the program in general. So now inject a guy with some experience like Roberson. This Jason Wright seems like he might be heading in the right direction. I don't know. I'm pretty excited about what we'll see in year 2 under Pete Lembo. Do you have a pretty positive impression of what has gone on so far this week?
Yeah, no question. Just because think about where the starting point is from last year, right? Even within the quarterback position, they just had no idea what they had, and we were impressed by how well they got C.J. Agbana and the rest of the quarterbacks to play. Well, they don't have to start from that spot anymore. You've got a guy who knows how to play. You mentioned Jason Wright, an incoming freshman who really looks talented, throws the ball really well, just raw, but certainly a guy that has the chance to be in the mix as the starter maybe in 2 years. So you think about where they're starting from, and that has to make all Bulls fans encouraged, and combined with the fact that there aren't a lot of holes to fill. You walk into a spring practice like that, and you're like, I know who all these guys are, because they had so many returners back. Again, very different than where it's been the last couple of years.
Yeah, I find, in the summer is usually when people start asking me, how are the Bulls going to be this year? And certainly last year, and definitely the year before, I don't know. I'll find out when we get there. Like, I don't know what I'm looking at until we get to the games. But I actually have a better sense of where this team is headed this year. I look at the schedule, and it looks like a favorable one for the Bulls. So I'm going into this year with a more positive outlook than I've had in a long time.
Yeah, 7 home games, that certainly is unusual, but a nice advantage to have for the Bulls, and not a completely daunting, overwhelming non-conference schedule. And then you bring a coaching staff mostly back and most of the players back. I mean, in the world of college athletics, these kinds of things don't happen as much anymore, but when you have it, you go, wow, that should be the keys to success. When you bring a lot of the important people back, that's always encouraging.
It might be, I don't know, a little too much to think of Pete Lembo in the same way that I thought of Lance Leipold. Like, he established himself here more, and he had established himself more as a D3 coach at Whitewater, but I've got the same vibe again off of Pete that I had off of Lance, which is, this is under control. After just 1 year of observing the way that Pete deals with people, the way that he deals with situations, the way he deals with game time decisions and practices, everything about him, I just feel comfortable, and that helps a lot. Add a quarterback in that we're starting to see good things from, and I don't know, man. This is shaping up to be a pretty exciting year for UB football.
Yeah, no question. I mean, again, you said in control. Like, that's what you feel and see every time you go to a practice or an event. Like, Pete Lembo's in control. He knows how to do this job. He's not learning on the fly. He's not trying new things. He has been there and done that, and it's just a matter of, the dealing with the changes and the year-to-year ups and downs. But that's college athletics no matter what.
All right, Paul, I'm not going to ask you about bowling today. We'll do that next time. Thank you for being our senior bowling correspondent who deals with, we went to the bowl game together. You're a bowl game correspondent as well. We went to the bomb. All right, perfect. Thanks, Paul.
That is it. Thanks, Brad.
All right. Thank you for listening to the latest installment of Riter Radio, the podcast, which is also a radio show. Once again, weekdays, Monday through Friday, 10 to noon, hometown 1340 WLVL in Lockport, and also streaming at WLVL.com. And there's an app you can download where you can listen as well. All of that and more. Hope to do this at least on a weekly basis, the podcast, which will kind of serve as a best of the radio show. But they're going to work back and forth and kind of integrate into one another because it's still just me. It's still got the same name. And I thank you for finding me online this time. You have been listening once again, and thank you, to Riter Radio.